Stefan, we can start now. So, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Starknet All Core Devs Call 45. And before we begin, as always, quick housekeeping items that we'll be recording this session for those who could not join us live today. And please keep yourself muted when you're not speaking to minimize your background noise. And it would be great if all of us can turn on our cameras. It just looks a little bit more lively. And we have four main agenda items to cover today. And I would like to keep us on schedule to respect everyone's time. So we'll start with the first point on our agenda, which is decentralized validation progress. So, Ethan, in our last call, you mentioned that Starkware is in conversation with potential stakers, and you are working on several key areas like observability, alerting systems, key management, and sync time optimizations. So, can you give us an update on how those conversations and development efforts are progressing right now?
Yeah, they're going well. I think we are coming to a bit of a consensus on certain expectations across the community and across different blockchains. Some of them are in terms of observability. I'm also having an issue with that word today.
Yeah.
Um, Pretty much everyone uses Prometheus to scrape, and we do too. So we look to provide that interface, continue providing that interface. In terms of key management, we're looking at our different options. We'd like to be able to support both local keys and also remote signing in terms of and allow operators to decide which flow to use. What's unique about Starknet is that our operator key is relatively low risk because that's not where the stake is. You need the staking address, the staking key to actually have access to the stake, and the operational address is used for attestations, meaning the risk there is being blacklisted by other nodes if you lose your key and start sending garbage. Um, However, we're still looking at what best uh, systems we can use. A lot of different ecosystems they'll have like native observer side uh, tech stack to provide remote signing. Um, so like Tendermint Cosmos has something called TMKMS or Horcrux. And then Ethereum has their own Web3 signers and so on and so forth. So we're looking to see if there's what would be the best type of solution to come to here without delaying too much development in terms of, or with minimum development so we can really achieve our goal of decentralized validation as soon as possible. Other things we're looking at are understanding common networking requirements across different chains. The reason that we're looking at this is because when choosing a gossip protocol, like how Propeller was mentioned a couple of weeks ago, each one comes with its own networking requirements. So we want to make sure that we aren't expecting too much out of our operators, but also under the creating understanding that there will be some sort of network requirement there. What else can I update? Those are just a few of the many different topics we're talking about with teams across ecosystems to better grasp what they find important and what they find as a nice to have. In terms of the RPC spec, so dates for the Starknet client-side proving upgrade. We're calling that 0.14.2. We'll look to hit integration around March 8th, meaning that we have some time before we have to finalize this spec. Currently, we don't anticipate any changes on the spec. However, I'm actively keeping it open or passively keeping it open in case such requests do come through before we actually have to close it so that all teams can develop final versions that are compatible with the RPC and the crates that are that it relies on. On my end, that is pretty much it. Ohad put out a snip a couple days ago on Telegram and on the Starknet forum discussing base fee adjustments, how we'll be making adjustments so that until we have our a complete dedicated solution to how sequencers can make a consistent profit off of the, not profit, revenue off of the transactions that they are processing. So basically the challenge is that a lot of the costs of sequencers will be USD based because cloud costs, bare metal costs, all that stuff. So we need to have a component of processing fees that will be responsible for covering those types of costs. And as such, we're looking at developing a solution that will address that. But in the meantime, Ohad had posted a snip in terms of adjustments that will be made until we get to that solution. So for whoever's interested in more information, Starknet forum is where it's at. That's pretty much it from our end. Thank you, Ash.
Okay. Thank you, Ethan. And also, there was one more question which was raised in the last call by Mohit from Carnot. Is like about like SNOS changes that would be needed for O14.2. So if you said like you would be able to answer it after some time.
Yeah, we spoke privately on it
Mhm.
and made sure that whatever open questions were addressed there. They were addressed by the
Okay.
engineering team.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Thank you, Ethan. And then now we can move on to client teams. And we'll now hear from each of these client teams about the progress since the last call, which was 2 weeks ago. And I would like to ask each of the team to keep their updates approximately 4 to 5 minutes so we can hear from everyone. We'll start with Christian. So, Christian, in the last call, Pathfinder O21.5 was stable, as you said, and you were planning to cut a JSON RPC O10.1 pre-release for testing. So, how did that go, and what is your progress on the consensus implementation?
Okay, so as we have discussed last time, we did a release supporting the new release candidate of the new JSON RPC specification a couple of hours after our call. So we haven't received too much feedback related to that. So there were no updates to our JSON RPC implementation since then. And O21.5 is still our stable release. The new one supporting the new JSON RPC was released as a beta, and it is explicitly stated in our release notes and everywhere in our communication that it is not meant for production use. It's more like for testing the new JSON RPC features. Since there is no deployed Starknet network with these features, no deployed public Starknet network with these features anyway, so there is no point in running this version in production. So that's still how we stand. We did make some progress with our uh, validator implementation. We have improved our execution component for re-executing proposals and transactions. We are now using concurrent execution just as Apollo does. It also turns out that it simplified a couple of things in our code base as well. So that is one thing we have implemented. We have also removed some recovery logic from our consensus code that turned out that wasn't really useful, because the network will just recover anyway, even without those complications. And we are also looking into some optimizations in our storage so that it hopefully will work better on high latency storage, like what you typically have in cloud deployments and such environments. So that's pretty much what we've been up to in the last 2 weeks. I don't think there's too much pointing into going into the details.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Christian. And Rodrigo, let's hear from the Juno team now. So in the last call, you said that Juno O15.18 with the major database reduction was releasing at some time today or tomorrow. So that was January 29th or 30th. So it should be out by now as far as I know. And how did that release go? And like, what are your observations right now?
Yes, we released on the 31, like the last day of January, basically. But like it was a team goal, and we achieved it. And we tested for a while. We had been testing that new database for 2 months, and we are happy that there were no issues at all reported. So everything has been working fine on that regard. So yeah, so that is important because it takes around like 300 database gigabytes. So on our current mainnet, like without it is Juno is 720, and with it, I mean with this new database layout is like 380, which is or 370, 80 around it, which is around like a 400 gigabytes cut. So we are very happy with it. Additionally, we also this update, because before Juno would work very much the same uh, no matter what hardware you had. So it wouldn't scale very well in that sense. I mean, it will work well, it will work fast, but if you have more hardware, it wouldn't work faster. So now we also changed that so that, for example, you can we get better defaults to work inside our minimum requirements, which are 8 gigabytes of RAM and 4 cores. But if you have more than that and you want to have better performance of your Juno so it can scale better, we also open new metrics for that. For example, you can choose your database compression. So for example, we are now going to move to a default, which is cd/cd. But if you want to use another one, you can use it. We also are going to allow to control the main table, which is basically every time you write to disk, if it stays in memory for a while, it is very good also because then you can have more concurrent writes. And then if you have to receive an RPC request for recent data, and that recent data is in the main table, then you can just go to memory. So it's also faster. You don't need to go to the database. And I'm talking so fast, I need to breathe. And then also another thing we added is like the amount of workers. So before Juno would only have one worker for dealing with all the database, or the work in the database. So now we are having more workers for that will scale gradually between one and the amount of cores you have divided by 2. So you always have some room space for anything. That is very good. That also has improved unit performance a lot. But again, also this is a metric you can control by yourself and that you can tune. So if you have like 64 cores, you can have 32 workers in your database. And then if you have 64 gigabytes of RAM, then you can have a bigger main table. And we plan to add more metrics for this, more settings, so you can control more and more how you fine tune your database, which, as we have seen, is probably mostly the major bottleneck. So that has been the release. So we're very happy. So
Okay.
it's already out. You can check it out. Now we're gonna continue working on Juno. Right now we have been focusing on security fixes, on RPCV 10.1. We haven't made a release candidate with it yet. We plan to do it at some point next week. And yeah, other than that, we are focused right now on cleaning our backlog. So for example, our consensus is we had that backlog for a while, and now it's finally fixed because our consensus was the only thing that was missing before is mixing with the P2P, because if nodes were doing consensus, it was good, but if one will fall down, it was unable to catch up and now we successfully trigger P2P. So if you want to catch up, one gets behind, ask the others about blocks, and then it gets back to the network, and then it can continue its P2P. Yeah, and yeah, that's mostly it. We're also now going to work also on finishing the backlog of a new state, new try that will provide also more performance benefits for Uno. And that's more or less what we have been doing for the last 2 weeks, and trying to probably before the end of February to bring all of these updates that are still PRs and bring them and make Uno release with those. So that's our side. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Rodrigo, for that brief update. And now let's hear from the Carnot team. So Himank is present here. So Himank, in the last call, Mohit presented and mentioned that several things that you guys are working on, like the Madara mainnet sync with the class hash mismatch and RPCO 10.1 work and Merkleization optimization. So if you can help us with what are the statuses of all these things. So yeah, over to you.
Yeah, surely. Thanks for that. So on the mainnet sync, we are still working on it. We got stuck with an issue wherein a class was not compiling properly. It's a very old class. So we are as of now trying to fix that. There are not a lot of updates there. On the localization side, we have a design doc that we are testing out internally, making some POCs for that and seeing how well it performs. Essential problem that we are facing right now is in the localization, the close block essentially close block essentially takes a little bit more time than what we were expecting, and we are trying to optimize that. That is where the whole localization and everything comes in. So we have a design doc for that. Maybe we can share it after our internal team after our team has completely vetted it. And we have been doing some we have been clearing out some technical debts we had in the orchestrator side and the SNOS side. So that is going on. That was the past 2 weeks that we spent in. And on the Starknet Trust side, we have created the PR, and it is getting reviewed. I think we got a review 2 days back. So as soon as that is resolved, we will be unblocked on the PC 10.1 side, and then we could merge that very, very soon. So yeah, that's majorly been it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Hemant. And yeah, so I think our agendas are over for today, and we'll come to the last point, which is like, does anyone have any other topic that they would like to discuss or ask any questions to anyone here present here? Okay, so nobody has any question. We can move on, and this brings us to the end of the call. So thank you everyone for joining the call 45 and for all the updates that you have shared today. A few reminders before we close. Our next call will be scheduled for Thursday, Feb 26, at the same time. That's 2 weeks from today. And as always, the recording of today's call will be published on the YouTube channel, and meeting notes will be shared on GitHub. So thank you all for your time today and contribution. Have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.